Alrighty, we are here with Sasha Siddhartha, co-founder and CTO of Thrive Market, who is thriving. I think you guys named the company well. Sasha, so excited to speak to you today about all things Thrive Market and growing a business and food and, some entrepreneurial stories beyond that as well. Sasha, thanks so much for joining. How you doing today?
I'm great, Max. Thanks. Thanks for having me. Excited to be on the podcast.
Yeah, of course. My pleasure. And as part of this, your team sent over some amazing goodies. So my wife Dana and I have been really enjoying the interview prep for this. I think even more than usual. So thank you to a listen team for that. And I have to shout out the sweet potato coconut oil chips. Those are really good. And then the I don't know if it's cassava, the yuca.
Cassava chips. Yeah.
There you go. It's like you work for the company or something. Those are really tasty and extra crunchy as well. So anyway, before we get to Thrive Market, a little birdie told me, Sasha, that your mom was a diplomat. How did that impact your upbringing and kind of like what you learned growing up?
She was. She worked for the Indian government for her whole career, and I was born as a consequence in Bangkok, Thailand, back in the '80s, and we, traveled all over the world with her. So we, as a diplomat, you get posted to a different country every 3 years or so. So I lived in 7 different countries before I came to the West Coast here for college, and I think it built a lot of adaptability. It was a pretty unique childhood, and I had the experience to see a lot of pretty unique places on Earth and spend enough time there to really immerse myself in the culture. But it also meant that I was finding kind of a new home, new relationships, kind of finding my footing over and over again every 2 or 3 years. And I really grew to enjoy that. And, it means that today, as things change in my life, whether in business or my personal life, I always see that as an opportunity to grow myself and experience something new. So I think it hopefully set me up well for the twists and turns of life and startups and life as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, twist and turns. That's putting it lightly. Adaptability is one thing, but 7 countries, back to back like that's unbelievable. Like, obviously, so many pros with so many cons as well. What was what's something you took from that experience from an adaptability standpoint that you're like, you know what, this here's a way to kind of immerse yourself in a new culture a little bit more smoothly?
Yeah, I'd say it's come in with no assumptions or expectations and really immerse yourself, and kind of in a regular context it would be listen attentively, but really kind of pay attention to all your senses, and I'd say approach it with positivity. I think the biggest thing that makes change hard is that people feel like they've left something behind and they've gotten attached to the past way of doing something, and that's what, from a consumer experience standpoint, people hate change in the apps they interface with. When it comes to kind of habitual kind of daily rituals, they hate change in those little things as well. So I think being really open-minded and approaching each new experience with an attitude of curiosity, I think allowed me to make the most of that. And make no mistake, it's hard. Like, you miss friends when you leave a country, particularly when you're a kid, but you form new relationships really quickly if you open yourself up to the new environment you're in as well.
Yeah, no, that's incredible advice. Like, keeping that open mind from day one in a new place. You don't have to list off all of them, but what was like a country or two from that experience that you really had no idea about beforehand, and then you're like, wow, this is actually pretty cool. I got to live here for a bit.
I mean, given that I was pretty young when I went to most of these places, I didn't know a lot about most of them beforehand. So I was born in Thailand. I left there when I was 2. I moved to Yugoslavia in the mid '80s. So this is while Yugoslavia, like Serbia and Croatia, were still a single country.
I was going to say that
rule.
that's pretty cool to say that, just as like a fun fact that you were part of a place that technically no longer exists under the same name.
Yeah, it's wild because it was such a beautiful country, and still is, and I have really fond, very early childhood memories of it, and it went through some real tumult in the years after we left. Then spent some time in India, which was great because obviously I'm ethnically Indian, and my mom is now retired in India, but I'd never seen the country until then for any extended period of time. So spent 4 years there. Had to pick up a couple languages on the fly because when you study in India, you need to know the Indian languages, and I didn't speak any of them going in. So that was kind of an exciting experience, and then moved to the Philippines, which was also an amazing experience because it's just such a warm, welcoming culture, and so different than everything else that I've experienced to date. Yeah, those are a few of the highlights.
Yeah, I appreciate it. What languages in India, by the way? I have very little knowledge of Indian languages.
So I spoke a little bit of Tamil, which is our regional dialect, as a as a very young child. So I'm from the very south of India. The national language in India is Hindi, and every Indian school, even if they're teaching in an English medium with English as the primary language, requires you to come in with a working knowledge of it. And I came in second grade, where the average student has been learning this since birth, and I knew none of it. So it was definitely kind of a crash course education for me to pick up and catch up. But I'm really grateful for it. I mean, now I'm reasonably still fluent, even though it's not something I use day to day, even conversing with family. But it's one of those things that's really stuck with me.
So crash course in languages, crash course in new countries, adaptability. I think that's something that, like, if you were to create your own entrepreneur, I think adaptability would be pretty high up in in agility in terms of like the traits that you need or that would be helpful when you're starting businesses. And before even Thrive Market, you started multiple businesses. What is it about entrepreneurship that kind of sealed the deal for you, that you knew you were going to go the entrepreneur route?
So I think it's a little bit of I'm a product of the time I was born and the time I matured. So I graduated high school in 1999, and this was the 90s, were sort of the height of the first .com era. I was already interested in technology. There was so much hype about high flying startups at the time, and this just seemed really appealing. As kind of a path to build an amazing career, a path to have real ownership and kind of make one's own mistakes and kind of chart one's own course. When I came to school and kind of talked to people who were interning and having $30,000 summers after their freshman year, it also seemed like a great sort of financial ROI at the time, which I've been disabused of afterwards. So I got really interested in it, and I didn't have the ability to study business directly. So I went to Stanford. Stanford doesn't have an undergraduate business program. So I studied computer science and economics instead, with a goal to, ideally get out there and immerse myself and build my own company as soon as possible. Few things got in the way at that point. So by the time I graduated, .com had gone from boom to bust. And, a whole bunch of the companies that had been showing up at job fairs early in my college career were no longer in business at all. And there's really only large employers that were hiring. I was also here on a student visa. So at this point, it was more kind of an existential question for me as to how I could prolong my career. So I actually, the first 7 years of my career, I worked at Microsoft. So, which was also a really amazing experience because you got to learn what it takes to build a product that, people really like and can be used at real scale. So, I've written lines of software code that ran on over 1 billion devices at one point. Definitely.
And you counted all of them, I'm sure.
Yeah, one at a time. But yeah, it was an amazing training ground. But yeah, I always wanted to be able to be in a position to chase my own ideas and make my own mistakes. So, fast forward to 2011 was around when I took the first full-time leap into entrepreneurship. So I had the opportunity to come down I was living in Seattle at the time, come down to Los Angeles, co-found a fashion e-commerce business with an old friend and colleague who had moved down here and had just kind of exited his rotation as a VC. So, at the time, speaking of adaptability, I didn't really know that much about what it took to build a company. Certainly knew nothing about fashion and very little about e-commerce. But I sort of recognized that if I didn't take the leap at this point, it was never going to get easier as I just got more mature in my career and my life. So, literally packed my clothes into a car, drove down to LA, slept on an air mattress for a good 6 months, I think, before I even bothered getting furniture. And we built this business together over the course of 3 years, and scaled it up, raised a couple rounds of venture capital, ended up acquiring another company, ended up kind of being acquired ourselves into part of a larger ecosystem of fashion businesses in LA. So yeah, so many mistakes made, but an absolutely amazing experience, and I think gave me enough training and pattern recognition that allowed me to be effective in the current role at Thrive, and it's going to set me up with a mindset to be able to really tackle this opportunity when it showed up, which was that was just serendipity, that right place at the right time when Thrive, the idea of Thrive Market was being sort of germinated, was right around when I was stepping off my last company and ended up meeting my co-founders, and the rest is history.
So first of all, I have to thank you, because that is the first use of the word germinated, I believe, in Wild Business Growth podcast history. So thank you. You checked the bingo card there. But let's get to Thrive Market. And actually, real quick before that, it's inspiring to know that even somebody who doesn't know too much about fashion, hint, hint, myself as well, can succeed in a fashion startup. So that's pretty cool. But Thrive Market, so you teased it a little bit, but how did you get in touch with how did you meet the other co-founders and this start to turn into like, this is actually a real business idea?
Yeah. And so I'm going to wind back to about 10 and a half years ago now, mid 2014. So I just rolled off last company, and I knew I wanted to co-found another business. I knew I had at least one more at bat in me. But I've been doing this for 3 years, so I had more stringent criteria in terms of where I wanted to put my time to use. I knew I wanted to work with seasoned entrepreneurs as co-founders. I knew I wanted to work on a space where I could have impact. So I was definitely looking at consumer and e-commerce businesses. And I knew I wanted to work in a vertical, in a domain, solving a problem that I was personally passionate about, which is, kind of what led me closer to the health vertical. So, much as fun as it was to run a fashion business, it was not something where I was my own consumer or was passionate about selling someone their 20th handbag. But when I got introduced to Nick and our other co-founders, the mission of making healthy living easy, affordable, accessible, just personally resonated with me and just struck me as a really, really worthy cause to pursue. None of us had really known each other a long time before we got into business together. Nick and I got connected through a mutual friend of ours who was running an accelerator in Santa Monica called Launchpad LA at the time. So Nick had been the entrepreneur in residence there for a while, and I had met the managing director there for a few years ago when I moved down to LA. So we connected, and over the course of several meetings, I think just vibed. I think that's a big part of it. Is the business had such strength that had already been established in terms of the coalition of influencers who'd come in to invest early on. If you hear Nick talk about the founding story, one of the seminal moments for us was that Nick went out and pitched a lot of traditional venture capitalists in the very early days of the business and got almost summarily rejected by all of them because these people couldn't see the need for an alternative source when there's a Whole Foods around the corner. But the health and wellness influencers saw that there's a real need for this product in the the Midwest and the Southeast, in the constituencies where they couldn't afford to shop at some of the most expensive grocery stores in the country, where they didn't have geographic access to those grocery stores because they lived in a food desert. So they'd already established an amazing coalition of these folks who had written checks for signing up to promote the business upon launch. So the momentum of the business really stood out. The strength of the business model stood out. So I had some experience in, like, my past business was a membership-driven business as well, and I knew kind of the favorable cash flow dynamics, but also the power of membership to create a community and to allow us to invest those membership fees directly back into consumer experience from day one. Makes such a difference in terms of the kind of experience you can create for your customers. So, combination of what felt like a robust business model, amazing partners to get into business with, and a worthy cause to pursue. Sort of that combination of factors was definitely too appealing to pass up. So yeah, here I am.
and the rest is history once again. Is what of the like points of differentiation for Thrive Market? What would you say is one that like when you first either heard about it or thought about it early on, you were like this bodes well for success if we can do this really well?
I think it comes down to the mission. So and our ability to pursue it, with unwavering focus. So, there was already a very clear plan, even in the very early days, as to how we were going to tackle this gap of access that existed around national organic products. And there were, really kind of three pillars. One is the barrier of price. So we wanted to get national organic products made available to people at as close to the cost of a conventional equivalent. So national organic is typically at a 25-50% premium, which makes it unaffordable for a large percentage of people. So using a curated catalog where we only buy, call it the top 2% of products in the natural products industry, we go narrow but deep with a small selection of products that are hyper curated for our members. That gives us a lot of purchasing power and the ability to really kind of negotiate much deeper bulk discounts with brands, pass those savings on to the consumer. The curated catalog also serves a function of reducing cognitive load for people in that, if you walk into a grocery store and you look at the peanut butter aisle or whatever, and there's 50 SKUs on there, what do you buy? Like you could spend the entire day reading labels. Our job at Thrive is to be to do all that heavy lifting for you and allow our members to outsource their trust to us and give them, the top 2 to 3 items to select from in any given category, while still maintaining an assortment that's broad enough to cover as much of the grocery basket as possible. So those are two aspects. The third was eliminating the geographic barrier. So, there's a lot of people who live in geographies where, they're more than 10 miles from any grocery store, let alone a natural and organic one. So the operational model that we were planning at Thrive, which involves shipping through national and regional carriers, means that we can get to every single zip code in the lower 48. So whether you're in an urban area with tons of access in Los Angeles or New York or San Francisco, or in a deep rural community, in the Midwest, the Southeast, where there's no health food store anywhere in sight, we're able to access members in all those different geographies, which is reflected in our member base today. So we largely mirror population density. Half our members are in the Midwest and the Southeast. We span urban, suburban, rural neighborhoods. Our average household income is under $100,000. So the fact that we had the ability to cast a really broad net was also something that not a lot of people were doing back then. Other companies have tried. I think we're probably still one of the small number of online retailers that carries the breadth of catalog that we do and truly has a national footprint in terms of where we can deliver. And then the other piece that's emerged more recently is this focus on data, AI, personalization, and really building a shopping experience that is purpose-built for healthy living. So the way I used to think about this in the past was e-commerce hasn't really changed a whole lot in the last 20 years. And in many cases, people are still shopping for groceries the way they shopped for books in the 90s. And there's a lot of power to that sort of pattern recognition, but it's not necessarily the right model for this category. So we've been really committed to constant innovation in terms of how people start to approach building that grocery basket. AI and machine learning has been something that's been a core focus from us from probably the first couple of years of the business. We've always had this idea that everyone's health journey is really unique. We want to be collecting personalization data from our members and using that to provide them the most relevant products. I think over the course of the last couple of years, this has really come into the forefront. So I don't know if you had a chance to sign up for the Thrive Market experience recently, but the way we onboard our members is you sign up for membership, and then you take a personalization questionnaire where you talk to us about your household composition, your dietary preferences, your ingredient sensitivities, your health goals, the kind of categories and brands and products you like. So we build this really comprehensive 360-degree view of the member. And then we use that to actually personalize and help them build that first cart. So about 90% of members are getting their first basket built using our AI. About 40% of the products they buy in that first order are directly a result of the recommendations we're making. And this has really been a game changer for us in terms of helping people accelerate their onboarding, because it's a bit of an overwhelming experience otherwise when you hit the storefront, you're like, what should I buy? Well, now we solve that problem for you. So we've really seen that pay dividends in terms of an improved customer experience, and also obviously driving revenue and stickiness for the business.
Yeah, that's so cool. Like, yeah, if anybody goes and checks out your site, like if you go to sign up, like right away, there's that personalization that you can feel. You're kind of like warmly welcomed into the community there. So I think it's brilliant, and obviously AI is becoming bigger and bigger. It makes sense you're using that a lot. But I mean, your CTO, obviously, billion lines of code for Microsoft, we'll call it that. You're very familiar with the tech side of things. What what does that look like over the past couple of years from a tech side, to transform Thrive Market to be so able and adaptable to use like AI recos and AI shopping cart, smart cart, and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think it really starts with people. So we've been fortunate from the very early days of the business to be able to punch way above our weight class when it comes to the caliber of talent that we've been able to attract. A big driver of that is how passionate people are about our mission. So it allows us to really attract and retain top talent. And over the entire history of the business, but certainly I'd say over the last 2 to 3 years, we've been able to do kind of up level our technical capabilities on our team by leaps and bounds. So from our VP of engineering, who kind of ran engineering at Stitch Fix and WeWork, was the chief architect at eBay, to amazing leaders in the product and user experience side. We've got such a diversity of amazing talent driving the customer experience and technology experience forward that we're able to move so much faster. I think that's one piece. The second is a commitment to more intentional improvement of organizational processes and efficiency. So, this is something that's kind of becoming top of mind for us more recently as the team has scaled, and we actually have the resources to focus on it. But getting to the point where we now have a dedicated team focused on enabling efficiency for other technologists across the company. And we're very fortunate to be able to resource something like that because it's such a high leverage thing where if we can make even small improvements in people's workflows on a day-to-day basis that remove impediments, that let developers get code to production faster, that reduce the amount of time spent on support and bug fixing and kind of production fires, it allows the team to stay really focused, stay in the zone, and be more productive and deliver more value to customers quickly, but also does a lot for just the satisfaction and retention of top talent within the team, which is also self-reinforcing because you get really great people to come on board. You create an amazing work environment for them where they can focus on being autonomous and delivering value and having purpose in their work. That means they get better and better and better at their job with each passing day, and the business and the customers reap the benefits.
So that's like a lot of the behind the scenes ops and logistics of and making things smoother. And I think on that logistics note, not talking about actual shipping logistics, but of the consumer facing side, a big differentiator for you is the membership model. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's pretty unique. I mean, there are many businesses that have that, but it's not always the first thing you think of when you think of like an online shopping type thing. What value, why was membership such a big thing from the early days for Thrive Market?
Yeah, it was. So membership, we think of it as a win-win and one of the best pathways, again, towards being able to achieve our mission. So membership versus subscription, to me, the membership stands more for community of shared values. So by being a member of Thrive Market, you're kind of voting with your dollars to shop at a retailer and kind of use your funds in with a business that aligns with your values. And that's everything from the kinds of products we carry, the quality standards we maintain, our commitments to sustainability, whether it's zero waste fulfillment, being a public benefit corporation, being plastic neutral. Having that membership construct, really makes Thrive Market a part of someone's identity, in addition to just a place that they can go shop. From a business and financial perspective, the membership is a major profit center for us, obviously, and it's also a generator of cash flow because we collect these membership fees up front. That allows us to be really efficient with both our marketing and customer acquisition efforts, but also, allows us to pass on a far greater portion of savings on the actual grocery orders to our customers compared to what we'd be able to do otherwise. So there's financial benefits to it. And last but not least, once someone opts in and makes a conscious decision to participate in the Thrive Market membership program, that motivates them to get more value out of the experience of Thrive. So that means higher order frequency, bigger baskets, higher satisfaction, which in turn leads to more customer savings and a better experience over the course of their year, which in turn leads to them renewing that membership and repeating this virtuous cycle over and over again. So the business has these kind of twin value streams around the membership component and the product sales component that end up being self-reinforcing or mutually reinforcing and create this virtual cycle for us. So those are a few of the thoughts. It's been one of those things that's been central to our success. I think a lot of businesses over the course of, particularly around when we were getting started, were ditching membership as if it were the plague because it represents an immediate near-term barrier to infinite scale because there's obviously somebody who does not want to sign up for that membership. But we stuck to it, and I think we've definitely been the beneficiaries of that decision, and it's created a much stronger, stickier business for us over the time.
Yeah, you're not kidding. I saw some of the numbers from your business's performance over the past year or two, and it's just staggering. I mean, you're like, I think over the past year it was over $500 million in sales and over 1.5 million customer, like just awesome stuff. Which is probably a lot more than the one customer you started with 10 years ago, but which was probably yourself and your mom. No, but I guess that would be two customers.
I am customer ID 1, as it turns out. But,
I knew it. I called it.
Someone has to test the
site. What would you point to? Like, so those are just super impressive numbers. Like, over the past decade, basically a company's lifetime, what would you say has been the biggest driver in actually being able to attract customers and like keep growing this business at such an awesome rate over time?
Yeah, and look, like 24. 24 is equivalent to even the numbers that you put out. Just as a kind of a quick plug to the team, we're well over 1.6 at this point million members. Well over $700 million in sales, and continue to scale really quickly.
Congrats. Hold on. Let me ask my question again with even more enthusiasm. No, I'm just kidding. No, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it comes down to a few things. You have to have a strong value proposition to begin with, and I think over the course of the last 10 years, every department at Thrive has been maniacally focused on creating as much value as possible for the member. So, we've gotten objectively, much better at that in every area than when we started. There's still so much headroom to grow because, for every success we see, we also see like 10 opportunities that make it onto next year's planning process. So we're certainly not resting on our laurels, but we've created enough value to make this a really attractive proposition for a lot of people. From there, just huge kudos to our marketing team to be able to communicate that value effectively to people and at scale. So a big focus over, called the past year and a half has been finding the ideal target customer and getting really focused on making sure we're able to, find out what they are, get in front of them, present them with the right message. Parents and kind of wellness champion parents, as we call them, who are, parents with kids of all ages, heads of household grocery buyers, but also people who are committed to making healthier decisions, not just for themselves, but for their whole families. That's very much our sweet spot right now, and that's where we've been really effective, kind of piercing through all the noise and presenting ourselves as an amazing utility, an amazing solution for people who live these really busy lives and have to make challenging decisions and balance budgets to be able to put healthy food on the table for their families. And we're one of the resources that they can leverage to be able to do that, and I think that message is resonating loud and clear. So that's been a huge portion of our ability to get out there and grow. And ultimately, look, like, it's a huge category with 1.6 million members. We're still 1.5% of U.S. households or something like that. So we're fortunate enough to be.
That's insane to think about. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a business where there's almost no practical ceiling on our ability to grow and scale and find a receptive audience. Um, but I'd say our recent and continued kind of rapid pace of growth is reflective of, you know, the team just getting better and better and sharper at presenting that value to customers in a telegraphic way. And then once they sign up, that's when the rubber meets the road, and we got to create a great sticky experience for them. And we've gotten to a good level of doing that, and we're continuing to, just relentlessly pound the pavement to make things better and better every year.
You mentioned as customer ID one, you had to do somebody had to test the site early on. How much testing have you done since the birth of the site?
I have saved tens of thousands of dollars, if not more, shopping for groceries on Thrive over the past decade. I don't know the exact figure, but I've got to be up there in terms of at least the top decile of customers. But interestingly, even our shopping we order from Thrive with, very, very regularly. I'm probably not the top customer or even close to it. There are a lot of people out there, real families who are getting, more value out of the platform than I am, which is that's the most exciting part of it. But we test a lot and all the time. So
well, now I'm going to put you to the test. We're going to switch it up a little bit, and this is a fan favorite segment called the unusual. So this certainly doesn't have to be tied to Thrive at all. It's just a way to learn about you more as a person. You could tie it to whatever you want, but pet peeves, quirks, weird talents. So let's start with quirks. What is something just a little bit quirky, like friends, family, your team, somebody calls you out for, but it's who you are?
Interesting. A lot to think about this one. I think one thing that definitely comes to mind that a lot of people do call me out for is I am unusually sensitive to really small details being off, nitpicky to a fault. And it's something that I've definitely had to kind of govern in terms of, how I communicate that to other people in certainly in a work context or anywhere else. So,
well, you're going to, I'm sure you hate my eyebrow scar and my hairline then.
Good to go. It's this is more anything that I have agency over. A good example of this is we remodeled our house recently, and I'm the guy who comes in and any line, any wall, door, fixture that is 1 degree crooked, I can kind of spot it across the room. So I've definitely driven a lot of people insane getting them to fix that. So I don't know. I go back and forth between whether this is a strength or a liability for me. So maybe it's mostly what I do with the knowledge. So.
I think it's both. It's a beautiful curse. My grandpa Fred, and my dad's the same way. I'm the same way. I don't think was ever officially diagnosed as OCD, but just kind of perfectionism, focus on little details like that. And, we'd be sitting in a room, it's 3 generations, and we'd all look up and see the same painting off kilter, and it's a fight to who's going to go fix it. But we started calling it emerging Fred syndrome when you're becoming more and more like him and focusing on that. So it's funny. You got the same genes as well. All right. What is a weird talent you have, or a weird talent? I call them that, but really it's a party trick. What's something that you're just, other than what you just said, you're really, really good at, but it doesn't really impact the business at all?
Really, really good at.
Could be anything around the house or a memory trick or anything like that.
I'm a surprisingly good cook. People.
That's good. That works well for the business.
Yeah, that's it. It's surprising because I don't really cook a whole lot habitually, but I take it upon myself to make rather elaborate feasts for whoever will show up on holidays and such, and it's always something new. So it's sort of part of my kind of explore new things and adapt. So I rarely repeat recipes. So I take a lot of risk in terms of cranking out 3 courses, 4 courses for a group of people that have no idea what to expect. But either everyone's been really polite or generally satisfied over the years. So,
do you have any tricks for finding new recipes? Because I feel like Dana and I we have our staples, and then we'll come back from vacation and start cooking again and be like, oh my god, we're so sick of the same food.
I think to the point of perfectionism, like I'll decide what I want to make, then I'll go read like 3 or 4 recipes online, and then like come up with my own little combination that like suits my
Yeah.
fancy.
Mixed it together. All right, and then last one, pet peeves. What is something that just ticks you off a little bit, but in the
Other
grand
than
scheme of life,
small
it's not a big
imperfections.
deal. Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting now that post pandemic, particularly now that we're all on Zoom all the time. Like, I have a real like love hate relationship with meetings because I do think they take a little bit more of a toll on you when you're remote. So, particularly large ones where I often feel like I don't need to be here. So, you know, my approach has been like keep them as small as possible. I've also found that like I'm never on time, so I instituted what actually like someone gave me a tip on this, which is has been pretty useful. It's just like starting every meeting 5 minutes late, and just having that be a norm, so that there's no chance whatsoever that everyone's going to hit one of these things on time. So the first 5 minutes is just like a grace period for everyone, and then the meeting actually starts at 5 after. So
I've been
little things there, but for
I've been
someone who spends
unintentionally doing that for a lifetime. I have the same gene of not being on time as well. It's
yeah,
tough these days.
yeah,
And,
just
and
institute it as
always.
a practice, and everyone's happy.
All right. Well, in the interest of time, let's wrap up with some rapid fire Q&A to give you a few minutes back. For the record, we started this 5 minutes after. No, I'm just kidding. But totally random questions. You ready for it?
Far away.
All right, let's get wild. What is what was the most shocking difference in going from Microsoft to the startup world?
Just how much more you need to worry about. So I think large companies do an absolutely amazing job, like putting you into a slot and getting you to the point where you can be incredibly effective and like have no concern whatsoever for anything around you. So case in point, I probably interviewed 100 engineers over my time at Microsoft. Like I never had to worry about how much a single one of them wanted to be paid. Like all I had to figure out was like, oh, is this person going to be a great technical fit for my team? Are they going to collaborate well? And then like all the rest of it became someone else's problem. Yeah. Fast forward to like building a team from the ground up, and it's a whole other ball of wax. Like convincing people to come on board, managing a budget, juggling like 50 other priorities simultaneously while still trying to build great tech.
Your analogy of like being put into a slot, I got some serious shivers because you ever watch the show Severance? I was getting like Severance
Sure.
vibes from that.
I love that show. It's great.
Shout out my brother Andrew, who was catching up on it, and literally right before this interview texted me, just finished Severance season 1, so good. So very exciting stuff. Anyway, what is the worst that someone's messed up your last name? Because you're also like me in the long last name club.
Most people seem to get it because I think a lot of people have heard of the book. So even if they don't know who the character Siddhartha is, like they've heard of the book by Hermann Hesse. So like somehow they get it pretty close. So my legal first name is Pradyumna, which is
I always
yeah,
get, yeah, I like Sasha.
yeah, that's right. So that one gets sort of destroyed like on a pretty regular basis. So I just stick to my nickname, um,
Wait, sorry, can you say it one more time? I'm going to try.
Pradyumna.
Prademya?
Yeah, it's close,
Okay.
but it's
For,
a lot harder than Siddhartha. So
for those just listening, Sasha just died inside when I tried to pronounce it. But anyway,
you give it a shot.
thank you. Went down swinging. What is an item that you purchase on Thrive Market that has just become like a lifesaver, like a fan favorite for you and your family?
So we go through like an absolutely ridiculous quantity of our own brand, the Thrive Market brand plantain chips. So
Oh,
like
that's good. I love plantain chips. Yeah.
yeah, so we've got those on auto ship, and it's like they're the savory ones, not sweet, and like you know we plan on consuming 2 bags every 2 weeks, and then by the time like day 2 rolls around or something, like I'll walk in the pantry and like they're guaranteed to be gone. So that's we need to up our order.
All right, and then last one, and I'm sweating thinking about this, but I am like very not familiar with the coding world, so feel free to totally correct me on this. But what's like the longest coding sprint you've ever done?
It takes me back to college, actually. So my junior year of college, I was taking a an advanced graphics class, and one of the kind of the end of semester project, end of quarter project was you had to like code up a full like 3D video game, which if you're like an 18-year-old nerd sounds like the best thing on earth to like devote your time to. So there was three of us, and like we more or less worked for 3 weeks straight, probably 20 hours a day. Like no significant exaggeration, maybe 16 hours a day. Like we slept and worked. That was it for like, and we produced something pretty impressive. And I remember, going to bed after it was done. I'm like, there was like a demo that we had to get to by like noon or something, and I probably fell asleep at like 8 in the morning or something. And I remember like waking up at like 4 in the afternoon, and like turned out like we hadn't made the finals or anything close to it because like the talent bar around us was so high, and the stuff that people would produce was so much better. But like it still stands out as like, I kind of like we left it all out on the field on that one. It's still like a fun memory all these years later.
Oh, that's an epic memory, and my eyes are like tired for you for looking at a screen doing that. But Sasha, thank you so much. This has been awesome. Learned a ton and just endlessly inspired by all things Thrive Market. I know if people want to try out or even become a member, they can do so at thrivemarket.com. And you personally, like, where's the best place if anybody wants to connect with you online?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn, so feel free to reach out or email me. It's Sasha, Sasha, at thrivemarket.com. So yeah, happy to connect and chat.
Awesome. Thank you. And then last thing, I got one more for you. Final thoughts. It could be a quote, words to live by. It could be, your favorite line of HTML. No, whatever you want. Send us home here.
I'll say it's sort of better to regret the things that you've done than the things you haven't. So like get out there and try stuff within reason.
Bring on the bongos.